TellyCast, the TV industry news review.
We're recording this week's telecast in Cannes as MIPTV, the world's second biggest content market, gets underway. Despite travel disruption for many as airlines struggle with COVID-related staff shortages, the TV industry came together once again on the Croisette to meet, greet, buy, sell and debate the future of the TV industry. My guests on this week's bumper show include head of HBO Max International Johannes Larcher, TV futurist Sandra Lehner, CEO of MContent Umair Massom, Dutch FilmWorks boss Willem Pruissers, and MIPTV boss Lucy Smith. Plus, we have a secret guest familiar to many, going back to the very beginning of this podcast. It's all coming up on this week's TellyCast MIPTV special. My first guest on this week's TellyCast MIPTV special is Johannes Larcher, head of HBO Max International. Welcome to the show, Johannes.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you on the show. Obviously, it's a big week for HBO and lots of exciting plans coming up. Before we get into talk a little bit about that, the HBO brand is, to me, really stands out as a really valuable brand, and that's key for you when you're actually going to be competing for the top three global streamers place. What do you think the HBO brand means to people?
Well, it depends a little bit on where you are, right? In the US, HBO obviously means one thing, been around for many, many decades. It means premium quality storytelling, distinctive series in particular that are the best in class. In other parts of the world, the HBO brand means very little. If you go to Japan, HBO has very little meaning. We don't have channels there. We don't have a consumer-facing service. We license our content to partners. So HBO for the woman or man on the street in Tokyo means nothing or very little. So the answer is geography dependent. When I think about HBO Max, though, what's important is that HBO Max is a lot more than HBO. It is all of the very best Warner Media content under one roof from all of our factories. Whether it is HBO, where we are the exclusive home of HBO content online, it is the DC multiverse and all the beloved characters that come with it. It is Warner Brothers movies, Pay One movies, but also later windows. It is Cartoon Network. It is Max Originals, which are distinctive and different from HBO Originals. So it's all of that, plus, obviously, depending on location again, licensed content, best-in-class content, great storytelling from third-party independent content producers and studios. The HBO brand itself is obviously synonymous with quality, but we're broadening that brand aggressively and rapidly to be a much more inclusive brand that speaks to everyone, not just a traditional HBO customer who was maybe more male, more urban, more affluent. This is a service in HBO Max that is intended for everyone in the family, whether they are young, old, live in the city, live in the countryside, are wealthy or less affluent. It's for everyone. It's a broad general entertainment service. And we think that the tent we are creating with HBO Max is big enough to have room for everyone.
Now, you launched in LATAM markets, first of all. What was the thinking behind that, and what have you learned from it that you're taking forward into the global rollout?
Latin America launched in June of 2021, so a bit more than 8 months ago now, and it was a natural starting place for us because we'd been operating very successfully HBO channels there for many, many years. First for a joint venture and then recently as fully owned channels that we controlled. We'd also launched HBO Go there as a streaming service, first as a TV Everywhere platform, then also as a consumer-facing direct-to-consumer service in streaming. The rights situation was favorable, our own rights were available, and clearly we saw a need in the market and an opportunity in the market based on the success of other streamers in the region. Netflix had 35 million subscribers, I think, in Latin America when we started looking at the opportunity. Now they're at 40. So we saw big opportunity, great rights, a brand that meant something to consumers, and the timing was simply right to start there. Plus, it also helps that it's roughly in the same time zone as the US. So we started there. We've learned a lot of things since then. It's gone very, very well. You would have seen our numbers for 2021. We basically took a flat to declining service outside the US from less than 20 million subscribers to 27 million subscribers. This is all ex-US combined, not just Latin. LATAM. But in 6 months, we added over 7 million subscribers. What's gone well for us in Latin America are a few things. One, we've really customized the service to the Latin American fan and audience. We work really, really hard, being driven by the audience first and foremost. And unlike other streamers, we try very hard to localize the service and make it a service from the region for the region. How do we do that? Well, a few things. One is obviously content, significant investment in local original storytelling. But not only do we produce dramas and comedies and now reality content and non-scripted content for Latin America in Latin America, we also added content that is third party. We added live soccer. We are the exclusive home for all of UEFA Champions League in Brazil and Mexico. These countries are a little bit obsessed with soccer
Just
or
a bit.
football, as you might know, and that's worked out very well for us. So content localization, customization, tailoring our offer to what is relevant and popular in the country really matters based on data.
And there was a lot of mobile-first viewers when it comes to Latin America, aren't there? Because basically there's a product that you created purely for people watching video on mobiles.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up, because one of the insights we had when we were in the research phase was that a large number of Latin American internet users access the net only through their mobile device out of economic necessity. So they don't have broadband at home. They don't have the big television sets at home that are connected to the internet. They use their smartphone as the way to access the internet. So for that reason, we saw an opportunity to create a service that we didn't have at the time in the United States, which is a mobile-first product. So you get to access the full catalog of HBO Max content, but it's only on mobile devices. It's only a single stream at any given time, but it is at a more affordable price that puts the service more in reach of those kinds of demographics.
And might you replicate that in other markets where that might be appropriate?
Absolutely.
If you've tried it already and it works, then you maybe, like in the Indian market, for example, or various other
Potentially. Yeah. So absolutely. And I think you're hitting the point on the nail here, which is we are not dogmatic or religious when it comes to what service model we deploy in which market. We want to do what is right for each particular market. In Europe, we've chosen for the most part to only offer a single tier of our service, the standard SWAT tier. But in the Netherlands, where we just launched on March 8th, we actually offer a standard tier and a basic tier. So whatever is right for each particular market based on a lot of insight, a lot of research, we will do. So absolutely you should expect in the future that you will see continued business model innovation and product innovation from HBO Max in that direction.
So that tailored rollout for each particular market, for a market like the Netherlands, you say, and LATAM, for example, tell us a bit about the logistical challenge of rolling out HBO Max in different forms, in different price points, in different tailored offers into over 100 markets, right? You're planning on over the next 12 months?
Yeah, our ambition is to be in 190 countries by 2026. We're currently in 61, so we're about a third of the way there.
Right.
Got a ways to go. We want to be everywhere we can legally operate, obviously, and unfortunately, that list got a little shorter a few weeks ago when Russia took itself out of competition. There is complexity involved in all of this, and obviously, we are a young service. We don't have the 12 plus years of history that Netflix has, and we have roadmap decisions to make in terms of allocation of resources between improving the existing service, adding new features and capabilities, for example, to our US service versus rolling out in new territories. So that's a constant trade-off. I think we've managed that balance pretty well. Is there more I would like on the international front? Yes. I'll give one example, payment methods. In a market like Latin America, a large percentage of the population is unbanked or underbanked. And in order to transact business with them, you need to have availability of alternative payment methods, whether that's digital wallets or even cash-based voucher redemptions that happen in the convenience store at the corner. You have to accommodate for people to pay the way they want to pay. We're not where we want to be in that regard. We just launched in the Netherlands with Ideal, which is the single most popular way of paying for e-commerce in the Netherlands. We got that done. It works beautifully. It's incredibly popular with our subscribers in the Netherlands, but there's a lot more to be done there. So yes, it's a constant trade-off between what you would like and what is reasonable and doable versus all the other priorities that exist in the business.
I was looking briefly at the various different content houses, if you like, that sit within HBO Max. Warner Brothers, HBO, DC, Cartoon Network, Max Originals, and some of the titles that you have, already established, but also coming down the line. House of the Dragon is obviously probably the biggest tentpole of the year that anyone has, so that's going to be exciting to see that rolls out. But looking at the list of Euphoria, Succession, Batman, Batwoman, Wonder Woman, some Suicide Squad, for example, those are obviously huge global entry points for consumers. But you talked about local content versus global. So you looking to create and commission local content in every single market you roll out to? For example, you mentioned Netherlands. Would you be looking to commission local content for that market, for such a small market? Can you just tell us a little bit more about that local strategy that
we're incredibly fortunate at HBO Max that we get to be, and at Warner Media, we get to be the stewards of incredible content franchises and IPs. We are the only place in Max territories where you will find Harry Potter. We are the home of Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon, August 21st. Winter is coming again. It will be amazing. We have Friends. We have Big Bang Theory. We have the DC Multiverse and Warner Brothers movies. The Batman coming to our services in the near term here in Europe and around the world. So we're incredibly fortunate. However, local audiences are local and local tastes vary. And we've been producing great original content in Europe, in Latin America, and Asia for HBO for many, many years. We are doubling down on that commitment. We believe there are distinctive stories and highly talented storytellers, creatives, who deserve to be heard and who deserve to be working with us on our platform. So yes, we are stepping up investment in Europe. We've talked about next year. I think we have about 30 to 40 projects in the pipeline. We are going into new countries where we have previously not produced original content. The Netherlands is one of them. I don't know that we've announced any specifics yet, but we're definitely working on that. Vera Peltekian is leading our commissioning here in France, and we'll be making some announcements about that not too far from now. Of course, we can't be in every country. We are not about to produce in Andorra, which is one of the countries we launched in October. We are producing in markets that are maybe not known as much for great content yet. We're producing in Romania. We're producing in Poland and in Hungary. We are in the major markets absolutely making a commitment to produce great content. Some of the smaller markets, obviously, not so much at this point.
If you were, for example, a UK producer, and you're obviously wanting to produce, and obviously there's a huge number of established, incredibly talented content creators in the UK, for example, they're not really going to have the opportunity to work with you on any locally created content because the service isn't going to be available for a few years in the UK. If you were them, would you suggest that they would partner up with perhaps some of these producers in some of the territories you are looking to commission original content to give them an opportunity to bring great stories to you for those local markets?
We will get to the UK eventually, there's no doubt. We have a thriving partnership with Sky that is lucrative for both parties, but it's a time-limited partnership. So eventually we will get there. As you know, producing great content takes time and many years to get from an idea to a great show. So the time to talk is certainly not far away for UK producers. We've also created originals in and with the UK. Personal favorite of mine was This Is Us, which is in the US is a Max original. A fantastic show that was incredibly distinctive and worth telling. So yes, there are opportunities there, and once we launch in the UK, that investment and commitment will only grow. For now, of course, there are opportunities across Europe to partner and work with HBO for our Max service. Anthony Root is the person leading our efforts on originals in Europe, based in London, and he's the guy to talk to with anything interesting.
Okay. So you mentioned sports live programming and sports programming in Brazil, the Champions League. Now, obviously, in Europe, the sports rights market is of a different order of magnitude when it comes to those sort of rights. But equally, there seems to be growing demand for women's sports, for example, and alternative sports, whether that be esports, drone racing, alternative types of sport that are developing and actually starting to build with younger audiences. And there's a lot of discussion at MIPTV this time about Gen Z and how to keep Gen Z audience is interested in TV and engaged. Can you give us an idea of perhaps your direction of travel when it comes to sports in Europe? Or is it just a case of we're going to wait until we're in a position to look at those sort of top-level sports rights? Or maybe that's just like, well, we're not even going to look at it. It's not in our ballpark at the moment.
Sports is incredibly powerful, right? It creates community and interest. It helps services like ours acquire customers, retain and engage customers. The problem with sports is that it is somebody else's IP. We rent it for a limited period of time. Kevin just talked in his keynote about the zone and how these deals are 3-year deals typically, and then they come up for renewal, and obviously the rights owners go to wherever the most money is. So sports are challenging. We saw an opportunity in Latin America that made sense, and I think it's panned out for us. In Europe, as you say, the table stakes are much higher, and we have not found at this point an opportunity or a reason to believe in an opportunity that was strong enough. And then it comes down to next dollar investment decisions and allocation decisions. We are a general entertainment service. That's our core. We come from a tradition of scripted entertainment and storytelling, 100 years of Warner Brothers coming up next year. And I think that's the core and the focus. Does that preclude us from potentially doing something with sports in Europe in the future? No, it doesn't. Do I find the bar to be pretty high for that? Yes, I do.
And one more question, Johannes, and this is a personal one from me because I'm a huge Curb Your Enthusiasm fan. Are we going to see another series?
I hope so. It's one of my personal favorites as well. I do hope so. I think the last season was very strong. It was very entertaining. I don't have any news to break on that, but I sure am in the same boat as you. I hope we will.
We look forward to the rollout and seeing the rollout of the brand. And I believe you're going to be speaking at NEM in Dubrovnik in a few weeks' time.
Christina Solibak, who's our head of Europe for HBO Max. She will be in Dubrovnik and speaking there. Yes.
All right, fantastic. Well, we look forward to that as well. Johannes, thank you so much for joining us on TellyCast. Really enjoyed our discussion.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
My next guest from Cannes and this week's MIPTV special show is Umair Massom, founder and CEO of MContent. Welcome to TellyCast, Umair.
Hi, it's a pleasure to be here.
So tell us about MContent, because we've seen bits and pieces in the news over the last few weeks, notably a piece in Variety a couple of days ago. But for those who don't know about MContent, give us an overview of the business and how it started.
So basically, MContent came about around a year ago. And it came from the central idea that we believe that there is an opportunity to decentralize the content economy globally. And I think that's the biggest strength of the blockchain, that the blockchain has the potential to decentralize an existing economy. And it could be any economy, right? I personally feel that the content industry globally is centralized. It is controlled by a few companies, studios, OTT platforms. While it's great for a few, it tends to reduce opportunities for others, right?
Right.
And that is the power of Web3. That's the power of the blockchain. You identify any industry where you feel the need for decentralization, and you can create an economy which is controlled by people. In this case, our economy is all about giving ownership to the viewers. And we believe that through our efforts, the way it is headed right now, there are other players also jumping in. And we feel that things are going to change, and things are going to change disruptively. We've already started the world's first watch-to-earn platform, and it's amazing the kind of traction that we're getting. I feel things are going to change faster than we anticipate. We feel it's going to take, let's say 3 to 4 years before the next phase comes in. But if you ask me, it's only a matter of months.
All right. Okay. Well, we love a bit of disruption and talking about the breaking up of established models and the creation of new ones. So that's exciting. So you're based in Dubai, is that right?
Yes. So we are head office in Dubai, but now we have like a global team that we're expanding as we speak. Because at the end of the day, there are huge markets when it comes to content and crypto, which includes the US, EU itself, even Africa for that matter. We're trying to get into Asian markets as well. So right now we have a team of around 30 people that are spread across 5 continents. And yes, Dubai is our base. That's where we started from. When MContent was actually started, it was something that started over the internet. A group of 12 to 14 people who sort of met online on a medium called Telegram. I don't know if you know about it.
I've heard about Telegram.
Yeah. So that's where we met, and that's where I started this journey. And now all of those people are in Dubai. They're based in Dubai full time. And we expand as we go. And it's incredible.
It seems to be an incredibly fast-growing company. I know you've hired former Insight executive Arun Malyars to run, I guess, the commissioning side of the business. But we'll come and touch on that in a second. So first of all, for any more traditional TV industry audience that are listening to this, give us an idea of how you're funded then. Because I think with any company, any new company coming into the marketplace, it's really important to know, are new businesses secured? Are they funded? Up to what point are they funded? How secure can you be, particularly when you're a disruptive business? So give us an idea of that.
So there are two aspects to the funding, and I'll take you through both aspects separately. So the first aspect is the institution, right? So our institution is obviously backed by four very, very significant entities in the UAE, and we have our main sponsor is one of the largest conglomerates in Dubai. They're into 27 different businesses, and they're huge. So as far as our core funding is concerned, we're very well sorted. We just recently did our pre-Series A in January, where we raised around $10 million. The valuation of the company at that point in time was $50 million. Now we're headed towards our Series A, which is going to happen in June. We already have interest from global institutions, some very large funds. We are generating a lot of interest globally as we speak, and I'm talking about both crypto VCs and non-crypto VCs. So we're planning to raise another $50 million by June, and we're set to do that. So as far as the institutional funding is concerned, people love what we're doing. People love the pace at which we are delivering. And I think this is what the crypto industry also needed, because there's a lot of the same. If you look at most of these crypto projects, there's all speculation. Whereas this is a company that is actually converting a speculative asset, taking it out from a speculative asset class and creating content, which in my opinion is a really sustainable asset class, right? It's one of the most resilient asset classes that is there, because it's going to make you money even after 10 years if the content is good. So in that sense, we're the first in the world that is capitalizing on an opportunity that existed on the content side. So that's the funding when it comes to the institution. Now, as far as the content funding is concerned, the fundamentals are based on the fact that, whenever there is a transaction that happens on our decentralized exchanges, there's a tax. So MContent is built around tax, which we call the CCF tax. CCF is Content Creators Fund. On every DEX transaction, there's a 4% tax that goes into this collaborative funding ecosystem. And at all point in time, you have a sufficient amount of funds sitting there. And then we create it's like a democratic process that we've created, where all our token holders have an opportunity to be a part of the content investment that is happening, right? Just to give you an idea of how this works, we've already funded content around, $5 million worth of content till now in the past 6 months. And at this point in time, we have another 10 million sitting in the CCF. So, and it grows every day, because now our trade volume on different exchanges is roughly $12 million a day. So you can calculate, how much money is going into content every day. And that's why now is the time for us to really go out and look for the right investments. Because at the end of the day, this is a model that is bringing in the funds from our retail investors, right? Because retail investors, they like to invest in the best asset classes. There was no platform for them to invest into content, which in my opinion is one of the best asset classes out there, right?
You mentioned earlier on Watch to Earn, the MContent platform. So first of all, where do people find that on the internet?
It's on the app stores. You can go, there's a web version as well on our website. You can go and you can also go and download it on either of the app stores. And instantly, when you start watching content on the platform, you'll start earning, from the very first view.
Okay.
And that reciprocates, which means that the content creator is also earning on every view, and the viewer is also earning. So it's amazing because, just yesterday I was speaking to someone, and in the last 48 hours, we've had almost 2,500 videos. The YouTube model. Because at the end of the day, the issue with YouTube is that 99% of the YouTubers, they never make it to the minimum level where you get monetization.
Where advertising clicks in, yeah. Which is about a million views a video or something like that.
It's based on the watch hours. It's based on how many subscribers you have. It's very challenging, right?
Yeah.
Whereas on our platform, you're making money from the very first view that you get, and what you're getting is a digital currency, right? Mm-hmm. And this digital currency right now, it's small base, we're sitting at $80 million. Everyone knows that good projects within the crypto space. So there's so much potential on the upside, which means that the creator is also going to hold. They have the option to convert into cash if they want, whatever they're making. But 90% of our creators, as we see, are holding on because they believe that after a year, this is an asset that is going to grow. Right? So there's an upside. There's monetization from the very first view. Then there's obviously better monetization compared to the existing platform. And the upside is what is really, disrupting the space, I believe.
If I downloaded the app now, what's sort of the most popular videos? Is it all short form, I would assume?
It's short formats. You will see some unscripted documentary films. There's a documentary film which is an hour and 30 minutes as well. So you'll find different formats. And then there is some syndicated content, which is like movies of 60 minutes, 90 minutes, but that's syndicated. So I'll tell you how it's structured. Primarily, there are 3 sections on the platform, which is the first one being the M Originals, which is the movies section. This is where we feature all of our original productions. Till now, we've done some shorts, documentary films. We've done an animated cartoon series. We're funding as we speak. We funded some independent filmmakers. There was a web series that we did in Nigeria. So all of that you can see there in the original section. And then when you scroll down, you'll see a lot of these different genre of movies, which we've syndicated for different markets, because obviously we wanted to populate the platform. In order to have our own content, it's going to take some time, right? Yep. So we entered into some distribution deals and, we signed up some existing content that was available. So people can also get into long format watching, right? So which is the first section, which is long format and scripted, unscripted. Then you go into mBrowse. mBrowse is like the YouTube on our ecosystem, where anyone can have anything. You'll find videos about supercars. You'll find videos about people making fun of their cats. You'll find videos about people playing with their babies.
So if I did a short form video, a TellyCast video of MIPTV, I could actually edit that into a 15-minute short.
Yeah.
Put it onto the MContent platform.
Yes, on mBrowse, you can upload anything through your account, and you have the subscriber base, you have the views count. Every subscriber you're getting, every view you're getting, you're making money.
Okay.
So,
well, that sounds like a pretty good deal. So what are your ambitions then for MIPTV? Because, so we're talking about democratizing the content space as the ultimate vision. But you mentioned you'd done some deals with distribution companies. What are you actually going to be doing in Cannes this week? For example, producers that are listening to this, what is their opportunity with MContent?
So we're funding content in 2 major categories, right? One is because, as we said, our ethos, our fundamentals, why we were formed, is to give an opportunity to the independent filmmakers who don't have funding opportunities, right? So, there's a fixed portion in our funding budgets which is going into new creators, new independent filmmakers. There's an entire process on our platform. You go into the MC section. If you're an independent filmmaker, just press the apply for funding button. There's like an option for you to upload a pitch video, which is like your 3-minute video where you explain what your project is all about. And people have the option to downvote and upvote on the platform. The applicants who are getting the highest amount of votes, they come into the curation model that we have. You also attended one of the shows.
That's right.
And we're trying to scale that up. So we try and bring in, experienced judges on the final selection. Yep. And that's where then, we fund 1 or 2. Every 2 weeks, we try and fund 2 independent filmmakers.
So it's almost like a Dragon's Den, isn't it? Dragon's Den for content a little bit.
It is. But obviously, we are trying to scale it up now. You'll see this becoming a proper reality show as we go. Right now, it's more of a YouTube format that we've been doing. So that's category 1, which is probably not the people who here at Cannes.
No, those are independent, maybe student filmmakers. People are just coming into the industry, just starting.
Yes.
But the second area.
So the second area, because we follow like a 80-20 model, because this fund is growing at an enormous pace. So what we've done is that we've applied an 80-20 rule, which means that we invest 80% of our budgets on 20% content that we would like to claim as M Originals, right? Which is the kind of content that we're here for.
Yeah.
20% of the budget goes into 80%, which is the seats. So here we are for 2 things, I believe. One is obviously for that 20%, which takes 80% of our investment. We're already speaking to some large studios, global firms, for co-production partnerships. We're getting into formats. We're getting into film. So that's the core idea. The second thing, obviously, is to also get into distribution deals for the next 1 year, because as you understand, it's going to take us around 1 year before we have enough populated content of our own on the platform.
Okay.
Until then, this watch to earn model needs to work, right? It can't really work only for YouTube videos.
Yeah,
That's
so
there.
you need to create a destination of
Exactly.
interesting catalogue of interesting content to just start the ball rolling a little bit.
Exactly. So
Interesting.
right now we're populating the platform as much as we can.
Yeah.
Obviously, considering that the real budgets need to go into new creation, because it's all about new creation at the end of the day. But yes, so existing formats we are trying to pick up. Speaking to distribution companies globally, we already have one partnership with the distribution company. So that's how it's going.
Interesting. So you're taking part on the blockchain panel at the TellyCast Content Funding Festival, which is happening in London on the 26th of April. So that's great for you to be part of that. During that day, you will also be available to meet producers for pitch meetings for these M originals, essentially. So there are opportunities there for producers to come along and pitch you projects and ideas, and they may come away with a commission.
Of course there is. See, traditionally, the model of crowdfunding in content, and I have a really good friend who recently, completed a film. She also got an award. She used crowdfunding also in her production. Traditional concept of crowdfunding in media is charitable, it's philanthropy. Whereas we need to move it towards ownership. At the end of the day, we need to make viewers into owners, and that is powerful, right? So I think my message to all the producers who's listening, all your followers, there is an opportunity here to create ownership of what you believe in for the people who are going to watch your content, right? And that is massive, because the possibility, imagine right now when we consume content in different forms in a day, sometimes, we see advertising in there, which is forced advertising. We don't like it, right? But tomorrow, the model is going to change, because in our vision, we believe that 2 years from now, viewers are actually going to own 80% of all the content that they consume in a day.
Right.
And that's powerful, right?
Very powerful.
So yes, my message is please do approach us while we're there, and we'd love to work with you. But at the end of the day, we all need to understand that there is so much scalability. Also, a message to a lot of filmmakers who do their film for cinema. They never make it to cinema, right? Because of box office restrictions, funding, budgeting. So one thing that I missed is that we've also created the world's first cinema, which is for the metaverse. Maybe you've seen some stories about it. So it is an immersive experience that we've designed. We call it the MContent Cineverse. So as a creator, if you have a film which is already listed and you're unable to get it to cinema, have that landed on our cinema. We will help you mint NFTs and sell tickets for that cinema. And whatever money comes in, we keep a very small share of that, and all the revenue is yours, right? So we're not just funding. Yes, we are funding, then we are curating the journey. We have our own streaming platform, which is fully tokenized. Then we also syndicate content. So some of the content that you see on our platform, we've also syndicated it to other platforms, right? So that's also making money for the creator. And lastly, now we have our own cinema for the metaverse. So it's an entire ecosystem that we've created. The Cineverse, by the way, was designed in partnership with PwC, which is a global firm. There are tech partners, and there are some stuff that is happening right now, which is very, very revolutionary, because you know how the world of metaverse is changing. So we are in talks right now with some of the leading owners of the metaverse space, which means that the Cineverse soon will exist somewhere. You know, right now it's in isolation, but tomorrow it's going to exist somewhere. So yeah, that's who we are.
Well, it's very revolutionary in many ways, Umair. So thank you very much for joining us here in Cannes. I look forward to seeing you at the TellyCast Content Funding Festival in a few weeks' time. Good luck. Have a successful few days.
Thank you. It was a pleasure being here, and I look forward to the conference.
So MIPTV is often about future gazing and looking at trends and audiences that are perhaps moving away from traditional TV. And it's always something that we see broadcasters and producers to a certain extent perhaps struggling as they're losing market share and audiences are starting to go towards different platforms, for example. So my next guest is a TV futurist and consultant in this area. It's Sandra Lehner. Hi, Sandra. Welcome to TellyCast.
Hi, Justin. Thanks for having me.
Not at all. First of all, before we talk about a few of these subjects about Gen Z, maybe touch a little bit on the metaverse and some of these other current and future trends, tell us a little bit about you, your background, and how you came to be a consultant and a futurist in TV in this area.
I'm originally from Germany. I went to film school. I started out writing for telenovelas and daily soaps in Germany and developing drama series. So my background is television. I know television very well. I also attended the Entertainment Masterclass. Maybe some of your listeners know of it. And then I realized in Germany at the time nothing was ever gotten commissioned. So I moved to the UK from one day to the next, and I became very interested in social media. So I first started working on a YouTube channel called Copper 90 sports channel. They're super big now. And I realized the power of social media there because I produced a show called The Eurofan, and we crowdsourced our local staff, then protagonists for the show, the locations, everything via social media. And then I got the offer to be a social media producer on Made in Chelsea. And I did Made in Chelsea, Downton Abbey, Sherlock, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Then I got an offer in Zurich, Switzerland, from a social television channel that brought my two backgrounds, television and social media, together. And I moved to Switzerland and have been working in brand entertainment for the past 6 years. I've always been interested in the future of entertainment. What's the next big thing? And I've been writing for MIP blog for almost 10 years now on the subject, the future of entertainment. It's actually interesting. Sometimes I go back and I read my articles from 2014 or 2013, and I realize a lot of that has happened. I don't know. I can't look into the future. I see trends, and I guess I have a feeling for what might work and what's just gonna go away in a couple of years. Yeah.
So you, for example, would have probably seen Quibi coming and then crashing and burning a few months later.
Absolutely, actually, yes. I mean, we all knew. I think the whole TV industry, I think we all knew that it's going to fail because they just didn't understand digital. And I mean, I tried watching a couple of the shows and, it was mobile first. So I watched it vertically. And then after a while, I realized if I turn my phone horizontally, that they actually shot it horizontally, and that when I watched it vertically, I missed a lot of what was going on in the frame.
Well, that was the first mistake, right?
That was the first mistake. Yeah. And then another huge mistake was you couldn't share the content. If we see something funny or crazy or entertaining, we want to share it with our friends and we want them to watch it as well. And that was a big mistake as well, that they didn't think about the community aspect.
That's something that clearly a lot of entertainment companies have probably learned from that mistake. But also, we're seeing the rise of lots of different digital channels that are cultivating their own audiences and essentially digital natives. So they're coming from a much different space. You're here at MIPTV to run a panel on esports and TV. Tell us about that.
Yes, it's about how traditional media can be inspired by esports. I'm not a big esports expert, I have to admit, but I think especially the community aspect is really important when it comes to esports, and I think this is something TV producers should learn if they want to be successful in the future.
We'll no doubt be reading some of the coverage that's going to come out of the back of that panel, which is going to be fascinating. Coming back to TV and Gen Z, which is kind of your sweet spot, if you like, we're seeing more and more that Gen Z are really turning their backs on traditional TV and linear TV, and they're starting to adopt different platforms and consume content in different ways, that really they're creating their own ecosystems and creating their own communities away from television. And that's going to be a really serious concern if you're a big media business now where things are going to be in 5 years' time. How can broadcasters and producers capture this elusive market or recapture it or make themselves relevant to that audience? How can they get that audience to watch their content and consume their brands and build audiences again in that demographic?
Mm-hmm. So 2 important aspects. Gen Z are the most diverse generation ever. So that it's very a fragmented audience, if you will. And it's the first digital native audience. So they grew up just, on their iPads and, iPhones. They don't make a difference between YouTube and television. For them, everything that's on a screen is actually TV, so they don't even make the distinction. Yeah, I heard of parents telling me that their kids, when they actually watch television, that they're surprised about the commercial breaks because they had not seen this before, because they grew up with YouTube streaming mainly. So you have to think digital first. And there was an interesting media study by Deloitte last year, and it said that their favorite pastime is video games, and then watching TV and movie is their 5th favorite pastime. I just thought TV producers need to know this. They need to wake up and realize they can't go down this road if they still want to be relevant in the future. I think there are 3 strategies how you can reach them. You either go where they already are on video games, platforms or social media, or you integrate an influencer that they are familiar with. This is what Netflix and Hulu are doing currently, because they bring the audience to the platform. So Gen Z, they follow people, they don't follow shows. This is also something that TV producers should keep in mind. And then the 3rd option is, in my opinion, that you use IP that they're already familiar with. Also Netflix, great example. They have a lot of movies and television shows based on Wattpad stories, for example.
What's Wattpad?
Wattpad is a digital storytelling platform, and it started out as fan fiction. I think it started out young girls writing about One Direction.
Okay.
So they had, their fan moments with Harry Styles and wrote about it. But for example, The Kissing Booth is based on a Wattpad story on Netflix, Like a Feather on Hulu, To All the Boys I've Loved Before. So Netflix has been really successful with this strategy.
Okay.
And I think the next big thing, I think we're talking about this a little bit later as well, but now the buzz here is NFTs. So Reese Witherspoon's company, Hello Sunshine, they're producing now TV shows and movies based on World of Women NFTs. And I was talking to David Kleeman yesterday, who was on your podcast as well, and he said that Time Studios is doing the same for kids shows. So it seems like this might be another source of inspiration in the future.
Okay, so just explain that. So they're developing TV shows based upon
an image, basically.
Based
a
upon an
digital
image.
Yeah.
A digital image, right? Okay. Well, that's going to be a challenge for any producer, I'm sure, to create that. They're nothing but extremely creative. Other than the traditional TV networks, because essentially they've kind of lost that audience already, and you mentioned a couple of strategies to regain them, to have these influencers bring these audiences back to their platforms. But we've also seen the development of digital formats, companies like Future Studios, formerly Barcroft Studios. We've seen a whole Little Dot with lots of different businesses that are starting to create high quality, unscripted, multi-platform content for these audiences and build their own communities and build really sizable communities. Is that the way to go for a producer then? To build that audience yourself, to build that brand, to build those formats, and then perhaps build those formats into TV at that point? So, for example, Future Studios has a format called Agree to Disagree, which is extremely popular on across multiple platforms. we might see those sort of shows coming into traditional linear TV and bringing those YouTube and TikTok and various other multi-platform audiences to TV. Is that the way forward, do you think?
I think that's the way forward, yeah. Because that's exactly what the streamers definitely and, traditional broadcasters as well should be interested in, because you're moving the audience. You already have an existing audience and you just move it to your platform. And I think this is the way forward.
Rather than trying to be the sort of uncool dad, if you like, and create a format and expect the audiences to come to you, you've actually got to bring the audiences to the channel that's already there. The community's already there.
This is also very interesting because I worked in advertising as well as in entertainment, and the advertising industry, they're so much more focused on their target audience. So you know everything about your target audience before you create something. And with TV producers, in my experience at least, they have an idea that they want to tell, but they don't think about the audience. My all-time favorite Gen Z drama series, I know it's an old one now, but Scum from Norway. And I know that Julie Andem, she was traveling across Norway, I think for a year, interviewing Gen Z about their problems, about, their experiences, about their dreams. And Scum was massively successful because of that, because she understood her audience. And I think that's important. And that's why all these influencers are so successful, because they're on the same level as their audience and they listen to them. Again, the community aspect. I listen to what my audience wants to see. And then based on this, I create something. It's just an anecdote from my experience. So I mentioned Copa 90 earlier. And so I produced a show called The Eurofan, and we had a big budget. Gillette was the sponsor, and we traveled to all the Champions League games all over Europe. And so it was very expensive traveling there, getting tickets for the games. The most successful show on the channel, probably still, was called Comments Below. And it was just two guys, two football nerds talking about the game and then answering the comments of the people that the audience left in the video from last week. So they were interacting with the audience and just chatting. Basically, it was the cheapest show ever. Just these two guys sitting on a sofa, talking with the audience, basically. Yeah. And it was the most successful show.
Well, it's a basic interactive entertainment there, and it's in its purest form, if you like. The metaverse. Now, we touched on that in the MIPTV preview with David Kleeman. I think many people might have breathed a sigh of relief when he said, don't worry, it's not here yet. But, I mean, where do you think the opportunity is for today's content industry? Everyone gathered here in the Palais. Where is the opportunity, would you say, very briefly, where would you say it is?
For TV producers, they should look Alter Ego. I think it's on NBC in America. And it's a talent show, a singing talent show, but you don't see the people. They have avatars. So you don't see the human beings behind it. You just see their avatar. I read an interview with Will.i.am, who is a judge on the show, and he said he's already thinking about what the winner of the show could do next in the metaverse. Could do a concert in Fortnite, for example. This is an easy example how you can imagine the metaverse and the television industry coming together. Okay. You can reimagine, grand designs or Project Runway, because you create digital assets basically for the avatar. Yeah, I think that's an easy way to explain it.
Okay. All right.
For maybe the older audience. And then when it comes to Gen Z, it's obviously Fortnite and Roblox, what's happening in there. And so I'm interested in Roblox particularly at the moment, because there's Big Brother in Roblox and Survivor, and it's just fans rebuilding their favorite shows, which I think is really interesting. And actually, David Kleeman told me yesterday for Squid Game, there are more than 100,000 versions.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
You told us about that. That's fascinating.
It's fascinating. And I think, when you look at a younger audience, it's probably more the video game area when it comes to metaverse. But for the older audience, maybe just look at Alter Ego and get inspired by what's happening there.
All right, okay. Finally, NFTs. You mentioned them earlier on. I mean, are NFTs over, or are we only just starting to see the beginning of the boom or maybe bust of NFTs? Who knows? What do you think?
I think there's a huge hype about the Bored Apes and CryptoPunks, and I've been thinking about, will these NFT be worth anything in 5 years? And I'm going to say it now, I don't think so.
Right.
This is my prediction.
All right.
But I do think that NFTs and the blockchain in general is the future of financing when it comes to TV shows and movies. Because again, like you have a community and you ask the community to produce a show together, and then they're part of it. You know, they made it happen basically, and I think that has very strong value to the super fans at least. And I think there are some interesting things you can do. I'm a big fan of Gary Vee, and he has V Friends. Basically, so he does some, I don't know, I think cat drawings, or I don't know what he's drawing, but he sold them as NFTs. But basically, you get a lifetime of his workshops and seminars with this NFT. And it's kind of like a ticket into a club. And I think this might be the way forward. And then also storytelling-wise, there's actually quite a lot happening in this space. I saw a mystery thriller series where you could buy clues with NFTs to get ahead, of other viewers.
Okay, so we should maybe look at NFTs as almost just like an entry point. It's not just literally a digital asset that you own the IP to. It's actually what that creator could build on in terms of value, to that NFT holder. Yeah,
I'm not interested in NFT drops. I think this is over. Everyone has done it. It's, great for super fans. If you want to own a digital image of a TV character, then great. But I think it's more like, if you're interested in collecting and further fan articles. Yeah. But I'm more interested in the financing aspects of it, and then how you can integrate NFTs in storytelling, like what I mentioned earlier with Reese Witherspoon's company. Yeah, and also how to integrate them in, not just base it on an NFT, but also integrate the NFTs in the storytelling. It's fascinating. Well, we had Umair Massom from MContent on earlier on, and he was talking about the ways that they're utilizing the blockchain to finance content. Is really fascinating, and his company sounds like it's really gathering some momentum there. So we'll keep an eye on that as well. Yeah, and I think it's also, just to wrap it up, I guess what I said in the beginning is all about your communities. You have to create a community, and like we mentioned earlier, Gen Z is so fragmented. You have to get into a niche. And actually, I think Netflix is doing a really good job in this area, because they're creating verticals, a comedy vertical, a K-drama vertical, and they're serving this audience. And then it's easy to, sell them NFTs or whatever it is at the end of the day. But you have these super fans. You have a very engaged community. And this is the way forward, in my opinion. That's the starting point. Sandra, thank you so much for dropping in and having a chat with me for TellyCast. Really enjoyed the discussion, and people will obviously be able to Google your panel session and have a look at what was discussed there. Enjoy MIPTV. Thank you. My next guest this week is Willem Pruissers, CEO, founder and owner of Dutch FilmWorks. How are you doing, Willem?
Not too bad. The sun is shining. The drinks are good, so it's a little bit of old can.
That's true. It is a bit nippy, though. It's certainly nippy by the sea, but sunny anyway. So I'm sure we're going to be seeing some sunburnt foreheads around by about sort of Tuesday or so.
For sure. Yeah, for sure.
So you run and own and founded Dutch FilmWorks. Tell us a bit about the company and what you're going to be doing in Cannes this week.
I'm not going to tell the whole history, but we started 25 years ago. And this MIP reminds me a little bit of the early MIPs I came, which were quite small and cozy, and it's now small and cozy again. We started as a video distributor looking for catalog titles and TV series. That's 25 years ago. Slowly but surely, we emerged from a video distributor to an all rights distributor. We have a theatrical company. We do TV series, a lot of documentaries. We started distributing everything the screen could fit. And about 7-8 years ago, also we started in productions, more or less by coincidence. But very soon after we started, we bumped into this cozy little company called Netflix. They wanted to do business with us. At that time, I didn't actually know how big that business would grow. But we were like thinking alike. They were thinking out of the box. We were thinking out of the box. Because until that time, and still a lot of production companies do that, they make something for a broadcaster or they make something for a streamer. As soon as they have the order, so to speak, to make the series or to make the program, they make it and then they see what's happening. What we do, as we are located in both Holland and Belgium, we try to collaborate with people. We try to set productions up between different countries. As Netflix asked us to do that. So one of our first series we got involved in, outside the movies we were already involved, was the series Undercover. I don't know if you know it. You know, where there's a big Belgian component, there's a Dutch component, and we brought it together with the VRT and Netflix. And we think about the potential a product can have within the territory. And that's why we've grown quite successful in TV series, also now in documentaries and movies we already were, to combine different countries. And our next step will be outside Holland and Belgium, to set up co-productions with various countries. We don't think like a traditional producer. We think like, how can you make the best out of it, not only financially, but organically? How can you get a thing which the streamers like, a broadcaster likes? And that's what we are doing.
So this co-production is your starting point, essentially.
Yes.
That's interesting.
Yes.
Tell us about what you're bringing to the market that's new this time.
This is quite interesting. We have 3 new products to the market. We have one TV series, a documentary series called Voices of Liberation. That was set up between Holland and Belgium. It's about the Second World War, but from a completely different angle. But we have these actors, directors, writers, famous from France, Belgium, Holland, Germany. And they all have a link with the Second World War. And through their link, we set up the story from how the Western Allies reconquered Europe. It's the angle which makes it interesting.
So it's family ties, isn't it? It's essentially people now looking back to their ancestors and how they were involved in the struggle for the liberation of Europe and Second World War, but in France.
So we
or
visit,
in the UK
and we visit the places. For example, the great grandniece of the bad guy in Schindler's List.
Eamon Golf was.
Yes.
Yeah.
And his granddaughter is a famous German writer. She's in it, so she tells about how bad her grandfather was, what he did, and that's the angle for that episode. Right. And then we go in the past, of course, talks, letters, images from that era. So we bring current to the past and back again. So, and that's like, actually, we finance it, we produce it out of Holland and Belgium. So in Belgium, we did it for streams, and in Holland, we did it for Netflix. But it's a setup, it's a European setup, because, there are a lot of countries, a lot of nationalities involved. But that's like a typical Dutch FilmWorks item, where you can bring more countries in an organic way together. Absolutely. So we have presenters out of every country, a Dutch presenter, Belgium, France, German. So
there's relevance to each market, and there's a reason for each market to buy it, essentially.
Yes.
Okay.
And so that's an important thing. The other thing is we did it with Dingy. We co-own that production company. It's a Belgian production house. It's called Hacked, and it's in Cannes series now. So it's one of the 10 who may win the prize. So that's really, it's a web series, 10 times 14 minutes, done for streams in Belgium, but a television, a broadcaster picked it up for Belgium. And now we have all these countries, hey, that's interesting because, we've shown the product and everybody says, hey, we want to have this remake material because it's about youngsters, in high school and their phone gets hacked. And what happens? That's a new thing. And the other, we brought it to the market. That's a totally different thing. A movie documentary about Louis van Gaal. He's the famous Dutch coach.
That's right.
The director followed him for 2 years. Actually, it was 1.5 years. And then he announced he came back as the coach of the national team. So we had to start.
Of course, yeah.
We start again.
He's an interesting character, isn't he?
He's interesting.
He's got no filter, right?
Absolutely not. No.
And that must be made for a fantastic documentary. So are you still following him now?
No, because we're going out theatrically in Holland next week.
Oh, okay.
And we're going wide. Yesterday we launched it in a TV show in Holland, where he was as guest, where he could, promote his own documentary. And it was like 2 million viewers last night. It was amazing. It was trending topic on Twitter because in the documentaries he reveals a lot of stuff.
Okay.
He reveals.
Well,
a
I'm
lot.
sure that we're going to be seeing that on a stream.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You can't give us any clues yet about.
No. I can reveal what he told, but it's not really appropriate. It's all over the news because he's terminally ill.
Right.
So it's nobody knew that.
Right.
Nobody.
Okay.
And actually, we know it of course a while, but it's like how he deals with it, how he is, because he's coaching the national team during
with this illness, essentially.
Yeah.
Wow.
Maybe he lives for another 20 years, you never know, but he has a bad form of cancer. So,
right.
But that's one of the things. His first wife died of it. So everything it's like this documentary. It's not about his being successful in the soccer world, but it's about him.
It's a human story.
Oh, you cry. You
Yeah.
cry. When I saw it, I cried, and I'm not a crying guy.
All right. Okay.
Not that I'm the standard, but everybody who's seen it is wow.
Is touched by it. Okay.
It's touched.
All right.
So that's what we bring to the market. And although for that typical program, we just who wants to buy this? About a Dutch coach, his personal life, his feelings, and everything. And then again, when the MIP started this morning, a lot of people asked, by mail or they dropped by, can we have it for Germany? Can we have it? It was really interesting.
All right.
Wow.
Okay.
Because it was trending. It was like on Bild,
Okay.
the magazine.
All right.
On,
Yeah, absolutely.
Manchester United posted last night because he used to be coached there,
Yeah.
and everybody,
They've got a bit of a social media presence, so that's helped you.
Yeah.
So how are you finding the market then, Willem? I mean, you said that you're a veteran of the old days of MIPTV.
Oh, Jesus Christ,
Now we're
yeah.
back again for the first time in 3 years. How are you finding the market?
Yes, it's like a market again. You meet people, you talk to people, you connect, and you cannot do that by Zoom,
No.
or per email or Twitter or whatever. I met in this today. It's now only like 4:00 in the afternoon. I had my first meeting at 9:30, and I met like already 5-6 people. Jesus, that's what I really missed, and that's why this market. Not only this one, but these markets are so important. You meet, you interconnect, you get ideas. Only I'm getting ideas by sitting here. You know, it's, and that's what makes a market like this important. And it's not as big how it used to be. People are complaining, and what's going to happen. But I feel a vibe again. It's like the allies are busy. There's a lot of meeting going on. I see so many people, and there's
a buzz. Okay.
There is a buzz. So everybody says, these markets are gone. Forget about it. They are a lifeline for new ideas, new connections, setting up things between countries. That's how I see it.
Willem, thank you very much for your time. It's been lovely to speak to you. Good luck with the documentaries and all your other projects. And I hope to see you on the Croisette later on. We might have a beer or something.
Maybe two.
One One of the great things about coming to TV markets is you bump into people that you don't expect to see. And I've bumped into somebody in the sunshine. I've bumped into one of the oldest guests on TellyCast that listeners to the very first shows will remember. It's Gertz Lees. It's Gertz. Welcome back to the show. How are you?
Thank you, Justin. Thank you.
Well, Gertz, so you were at K7 Media back in those dark days of lockdown when we were talking about trends and you were bringing us some incredible information about formats that were being developed and how the whole TV industry was coping with this unprecedented catastrophe that we're hopefully at the end of and coming out of now. So tell us where you are now, because you've moved on.
Yeah, that's the reason why our ways kind of parted, because at my new job it wouldn't be like fair, let's say, to continue doing telecasts. So I'm working for ITV Studios already like more than 15 months now.
Okay, and you're in Amsterdam.
Yes, I'm based in Amsterdam, and I'm looking after distribution of our non-scripted catalog, like pretty much according to United Nations, close to 200 countries, right? Because I look after all these countries where we don't have our own production. So so you can calculate if it's 13 countries we have our studios, then the rest is my umbrella role.
Yeah. Wow. Well, that's a big job. And you're just the man to take it on. And we had Arjen from ITV Studios on the MIP TV preview show, so it was great to chat with him. You know, here we are 2 years after the first telecast, just about, and here we are at the first MIP TV for 3 years. So what's changed, do you think? What's changed forever in the TV business? And, you know, how are we going to move out of this as an industry stronger, if we can?
That's a really big question. I mean, when you started this question, I was thinking of a little bit like, not funny, but a bit funny answer. But it really requires something a bit more depth.
Yeah, okay. It got more profound as it went on, that question.
Yeah, but like the first part I was thinking probably is that, and I really hope it stays, that we have, actually, in a way, we have become more relaxed here at MIP, because if you remember all the MIPs before, it was like this crazy rush of 30 minutes, you know, like I know people who had like 60 meetings in 3 days, and now we actually see so much better results when we have a proper chat, when we can sit down like for an hour and talk, not just running through the catalog and the news in our catalog, but just talking about kids and dogs and everything else, because it's, as you know, it's a relationship business.
Do you think we've kind of come to incorporate a little bit more of that into our daily lives anyway as well? Because I think it maybe changed our views of our crazy, hectic lifestyle flying around the world and perhaps not being as good to the planet or ourselves. And then all of a sudden, you know, we were forced to be at home and perhaps reevaluate the time that we spent. And maybe that is something that we take forward in the way that we do business.
In a way, yes, but on the other hand, I think the overall thing is that we need these personal connections. The question is where we get them, whether it's these big markets like this or somewhere else. Like I myself, I was in India last week, before I was in London, so I'm really happy, sorry to say, not being sustainable,
right?
and getting this travel back, because it makes such a big difference.
Yeah,
you know, like in 1 week in India was worth probably all these 2 years of Zooms and everything else, right?
Wow.
I think we have talked about it actually in also on your podcast, that being a bit skeptical whether there is need for 2 huge MIPs a year or things like that. So I think it's more flexibility, more diversity, which we look forward to. It's the same like with the formats. If we talk a bit about formats as well, I feel like it's not anymore so much about structured genres. It's more about human stories, and basically you kind of adapt the genre to the human story rather than like precisely put in boxes. Now it's game show, now it's whatever. But like it's more like first you find the story and then you think about creating that box around it. I think in a similar way, maybe it's with the markets and how we do business, that we kind of approach it bits from a different perspective.
Yeah. Have you been walking the halls of the Palais yet? Does it look like there's plenty of business being done?
Yeah, like you, I can compare with October because I was also in October, and yeah, it definitely looks improving. In the Palais, I remember I felt really sorry for some colleagues who had stands back then because it seemed like, yeah, a bit like a ghost town. Then now it's somehow, maybe because it's spring is in there, so it feels like people are again here, and even like again, if we are talking formats, I met already so many of my colleagues from other distributors, which last time I just remember I was sitting at one table at Majestic, and Jan Salling was sitting at the next table, and that was it. Two of us, and then I was leaving before Jan, and he was still asking me, sold out? And I said yes. So that was how was October.
But it certainly seems a bit buzzier, doesn't it? It really does seem that there's a lot of people about. Cafe Roma has closed. Or it's certainly been
crazy.
renovated.
And New York as well.
Yeah, it's
so
gone.
It's stressing, right?
Yeah, there's a whole big rebuilding program, which I think anybody who was back in Cannes in the day, I seem to remember this, roads being dug up everywhere. There's obviously a big reconstruction program happening. But yeah, there's quite a lot of work, and I've heard a lot of producers having to change their lunch meetings from Cafe Roma.
The same.
Gertz, thank you for coming on. It's lovely to see you again.
Thank you.
And will we see you at NEM later this year? Will you be there?
Not sure, but yeah, I can pop up in different parts of the world now. So,
but it sounds like it. Well, make sure you offset your carbon emissions.
Sorry.
Yeah. Gertz Lucis, thanks so much for coming on. Great to see you.
Take care.
So to round up this week's MIPTV special show from Cannes, I'm joined by Lucy Smith from RX Global. Lucy, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well, Justin. Slightly exhausted after this amazing last few days, but doing very well, thanks.
I bet you are. Well, thank you for taking some time out of your schedule to have a quick sit down. So this was the first year of the new look MIPTV. How's the event gone, and is it everything you expected it would be?
It's better than we could have expected. We have delivered on the transformation we wanted to make, which was to resize MIPTV, to transform it, to give companies different ways of taking part, adapting there and scaling their levels of participation. And the energy has been incredible. Having those really great big networking spaces where you can have round tables and workshops and conferences, people really get together and talking to each other in person again, alongside what you expect from a major MIP market, which is the main stage with amazing keynotes. So no, really has exceeded expectations, I'd say.
Pretty much everybody I've spoken to on the show so far seems really glad to be back together. The sun's out. People are back to meeting, debating, eating and drinking together, which is something that we perhaps in the past took for granted. When it's taken away, you realise how valuable that is. So can we detect a little bit of a buzz returning to industry markets, do you think?
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, I think the conversations I've been having are very much about, yes, we've learned to do things differently when we didn't have the markets, but nothing replaces that. And just being able to meet with people face to face and seeing them and feeling them and sharing emotions, that's what it's about. And nothing really can replace that. So yeah, there may be some changes in how people will, adapt their calendars, and we all know that. But right now, what we're seeing is a real sort of joy to be back at a spring MIPTV dates, which are, it's the 59th MIPTV, believe it or not.
Wow.
And I have to say that, these spring dates are solidly booked in the calendar.
So tell us a bit about your personal highlights from this year's MIPTV.
There's so many of them, but my personal highlights, I think the most sort of emotional highlight I would say I want to share is when we brought together the Ukrainian industry, expecting maybe a dozen people, and they have brought 80 Ukrainian delegates, because there's nothing more important than them being able to promote, sell, co-produce and get the stories from Ukraine out to the market, and we organised a session where they had put together an amazing reel of content just to show what's coming out of there. So we were delighted to really be able to host them with us. Other highlights include, I always love the moments of the heavy hitters on stage in Cannes and having, guys like Kevin Mayer and René Breckman talking about, a real next generation media company with this huge acquisitions. HBO Max, which just sharing the global rollout. I think we're talking about getting to 190 territories by 2026. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
And as well as some of the awards. I mean, Cécile Frotte-Coutaz, an amazing woman. We've worked together with Variety. She had this wonderful award presented. And another highlight, we've always felt that the MIP platform should also be used for what we call sort of change for good, and the importance of the industry stepping up around certain subjects. So we had the third United Nations supported event, which is the MIP SDG Award, and we introduced a new one this year. So we've presented that to the Association of Commercial Televisions around disinformation. But then we have this really cool, innovative new entertainment media company. It's the Year of Youth, and it's around young people who are making all of these amazing couture, they're called junk couture, out of recyclables. And that's the kind of thing that, is unexpected, and with a fashion show, which was just incredible. So there's many highlights, but those are just a few of them.
So can you tell us the delegate numbers and the buyer numbers? Everybody's always keen to know how many people have been here and buyers. Can you give us a bit of insight into that?
Yeah, of course. I mean, we were really thrilled by it. We've had over 5,000 delegates here in Cannes, as well as a few hundred online who haven't been able to get to Cannes. Out of those, I think we have around 1,200 buyers on site. And also, what's hugely important is also all of the producers and the co-producers and the, companies talking about development. Distribution is key, but the rest of the production and the content conversations have been happening. 150 plus stands with US majors back in town with different ways, different divisions. But, that's made it a really exciting show to be at. And we've heard that people's business diaries have been very full.
Yeah, I've heard that too. A lot of people have been perhaps not back to the kind of almost overwhelming back-to-back of years gone by, but people have said that they've had, lots of meetings, and those meetings have been, very positive and energetic, which was great to hear.
Right, and I really think that the days of you having to have only those 30-minute back-to-back meetings, that's what we've just been going through. You do that on Zoom and Teams every day, but actually taking a bit more time because you have that personal contact. Yeah. I think people are beginning to learn maybe you need to adapt and have give a bit longer and get more in-depth conversations if you have to talk a bit more about development.
Well, that's right, especially as we've been apart for so long, just coming straight back into that half an hour back-to-back seems slightly inappropriate in a way, sitting down and maybe sitting in the sun and, having a coffee or a beer or a rosé and being able to rebuild those relationships in what is really a relationship-driven business.
Well, no, absolutely. I mean, I don't know how many people you saw giving big hugs and kisses to each other and saying, we haven't seen each other for like 2 years. I mean, and it's like when you need to get that glass of rosé together and, walking up and down the Croisette late at night and bumping into people again, all of those wonderful, shared moments. It's been really incredible to see.
And, well, looking forward to October already. I know we're always looking forward in this industry. Can you give us any insights about this year's MIPCom, which is happening as ever in the calendar in October?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what we can say about MIPCom coming up in October is that, everyone's going to be back, bigger, outside again. We'll have a lot of many outside exhibits and tents, and the people you are used to seeing will be back and more. And we believe that MIPCom really does need to also adapt as it's always done with the industry. And obviously, I think over the past few years, there's never been more important focus on the creative community and production community, and we will be absolutely a home for that community. And all of the streamers will also find their place at MIPCom, and we're having many, many good conversations. So we've got a lot of announcements to make. They will be coming out soon, and there will be some really exceptional red carpet moments that I cannot talk to you about yet, but there's some very exciting projects that are going to be coming up soon.
All right, well, we look forward to hearing more about that, Lucy, in due course. But congratulations on a fantastic event that everybody's enjoyed. So thanks again, and we'll see you in October.
We certainly will, Justin. Maybe next time we'll actually manage to get this glass of rosé we keep saying we will have together.
I know, that's
the
it.
The show's just too busy.
Yeah.
But no, thanks a lot, and it's great to have you with TellyCast here at the show.
Well, that's about it from sunny Cannes. I hope you enjoyed the show. We've just announced our first event, the TellyCast Content Funding Festival, a unique new industry event created to bring content producers and financiers together to explore the wide range of production funding options available today. With delegates and panellists already confirmed from Channel 4, ITV, BBC Studios and leading indies, it takes place at Lincoln's Inn in London on Tuesday, April 26th. Tickets are strictly limited and on sale now at tellycast.com/events. And our early bird ticket promotion runs out on Friday, 8th of April, so move fast for the best ticket deals. We hope to see you there. TellyCast was edited by Ian Chambers and recorded in Cannes. Until next week's show, as always, stay safe.